Beyond the buzzer, inside the game, this is Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Hey, and a happy 4th of July weekend to you. Sports IQ, Larry Smith. America 250, and hopefully you got some great plans for this weekend. Enjoy the celebrations. Hey, listen, to get you there, we've got a fantastic show here. This is the kind of show to kick back and spend your hour. Share it with some friends. Like earlier this week, we had the really good hour talking about just a lot of sports finance, kind of some good conversation. Today, some sports history. And at the end of the show, we're going to break down the top 5 sporting events, sporting moments that happened in July 4th history, okay? One you probably know of. The other one's probably not. Listen, here's the thing. In our research, if you follow us on YouTube, and we do the moment of awe every day, right? Sports IQ LS. Be sure to go there and subscribe. We have every day's got a big moment in history, right? Well, in our research, we found out there's a lot of stuff that's gone on in the first 4 days of July in the history of sports. So we'll break down some of those as well, including producer Tony with his own account. He was there for one of the most bizarre moments in sports history. He was right there, and that's coming up. We'll hear that coming up here in just a moment. Let's get to some quick headlines for you before we get to today's moment of all. According to sources, Billy Donovan agreeing to become the lead assistant coach for the San Antonio Spurs and head coach Mitch Johnson. Donovan, a member of the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame class last year, joining the Western Conference champions after 11 seasons as a head coach with the Chicago Bulls and Oklahoma City before that, as well as his 2 college basketball national titles with Florida back in 06 and 07. The 61-year-old stepped down back in April as head coach of the Bulls after 6 seasons. Chicago brass said at the time that they wanted the longtime coach to remain in town, but they respected his choice to leave. So there you go. So Donovan back in coaching, although in a different role than what you might have expected. U.S. victory, by the way, over Bosnia and Herzegovina on Wednesday night in the World Cup was the most watched soccer telecast in English language history. More than 24.4 million viewers, according to Fox Sports. The peak audience, 31.8 million. The U.S. winning the game 2-0 in Santa Clara, California, to advance to the round of 16, marking its first knockout win since 2002. The match topped the telecast of the 2015 FIFA Women's World Cup final. That drew 22.3 million viewers on English language TV. By comparison, the most watched Super Bowl of all time, just last year, 2025, an average of 127.7 million viewers watching the Eagles and Chiefs across Fox, Fox Deportes, Telemundo, and Tubi. The peak average audience that night for the Eagles championship, 137.7 million viewers, and that came during the second quarter. Just while we're talking numbers here, last month's NBA Finals between the Knicks and Spurs averaged 20.6 million viewers on ABC and ESPN, and according to Nielsen, that was its highest mark since 1998. So the question is, how long will that record last? Because everyone's got World Cup fever right now here being played in the U.S. And in North America. USA facing Belgium Monday night, and so this record may fall then. We will see what happens. But love the fact that everyone's jumping on board and supporting USA as they try to go for gold in the World Cup. Good stuff. Time now for today's moment of awe and the stadium fire that revealed a Major League Baseball city. That town is Baltimore, and they had a Major League Baseball franchise once upon a time for all of 1 year back in 1901 in the original American League before the team up and moved to New York after the season. Well, on this day, July 3rd, 1944, a fire started. The suspect was a cigarette or cigar butt at Old Oriole Park. It was a wooden structure covered in creosote to prevent decay, and it burned to the ground. Reportedly, the fire was so intense that it melted windows across the street. Well, the tragedy forced the city of Baltimore to allow the minor league team, named the Orioles, to use the much larger football venue, Memorial Stadium. It turned out to be a blessing. The crowds that the minor league Orioles turned out proved that Baltimore was a major league city. And a decade later, the St. Louis Browns relocated to Baltimore, changed their name to Orioles, and have been there ever since. The big league city that rose from the ashes of a stadium fire. Baltimore. That's our moment of awe.
You're listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
All right, moment of all out of the way. Sports IQ with Larry Smith. And here we are on Friday, July 3rd. Some of you may be listening, however, on some of our affiliates on the 4th of July. And if so, again, regardless, be safe wherever you are. Glad you're with us here as part of your holiday weekend. Producer Tony, as you know, is our resident he's not an idiot, but idiot savant because he is I'm a sports fan. He's a bigger sports. He's not an idiot. I love the guy, but this guy follows sports and keeps me up to date. It's funny. The conversations, Tony, we've talked before about this, that literally when you and I get together and talk here on the show, and we mentioned this the other day, we've been doing this since 1993. I mean, just the regular conversations. And so we thought it'd be kind of fun to have you because you really, really, really still follow baseball so deeply. Let's talk about the first half of the season here, of this Major League Baseball season. So we had a conversation earlier with someone from Just Baseball. Want to get your thoughts. Who are the one or two biggest surprises so far this season for you?
You know, I think there's three teams right now that are running neck and neck for that honor at this point. And there are three teams that just, 2 years ago were just the dregs of baseball. And it just shows you how fast you can rebuild. Look, the Chicago White Sox have done a great job. They jettisoned some great players. Yes, they had to trade Garrett Crochet. Yes, they jettisoned all the players that they thought were going to get them, but they've rebuilt quickly. They're tied right now up atop the AL Central, just having a fabulous season, getting great production in the offense, getting great pitching. So they're way ahead of schedule. They're probably about 2 or 3 years ahead of where most people thought they might be on this rebuild. And then in the NL East, yes, the Braves are leading. Yes, the Phillies are right on their tail. But you know what? The Washington Nationals and the Miami Marlins are not that far back, and they're both in contention for a wild card spot. Now, if you'd have said that before the season, you'd have gotten fantastic odds, or somebody might have offered to put you in a straitjacket and take you to a nice padded room and let you relax for a little while, right? Because you've said, oh, the Mets aren't going to be in it, but these two teams are. Like, yeah, okay, buddy, sure, whatever you say. But come with me. Don't make any sudden moves. But the Nationals, James Wood is having a fabulous season. He will be in the All-Star game one way or another to show his prowess. He's having just an excellent year down there for the Nationals. The Miami Marlins, way ahead of schedule. Max Meyer is really proving to be the pitcher everybody thought he was going to be. He's having a fabulous season. They were thinking about moving on from Sandy Alcantara this year, or in the offseason, decided to keep him. Thought maybe they could move him at the trade deadline. But right now, being in contention, they're probably going to have to hang on to him unless they try to do some sort of reverse trade and get something back that'll help them. But they're going to be holding on to their pieces because they're way above schedule on their rebuild as well. All three of those franchises, if you're a fan of one of those three, you're having a fabulous first half of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned in terms of trades, the trade deadline is coming up. What's a deal you're looking forward to, or a couple deals that you may think could be in the works?
I think it's going to be interesting to see how big of a fire sale the Mets have, because this season has gone from bad to worse to horrible in record time. This was, the Mets, I think, have the second or third highest payroll right now in baseball.
Wow.
And if you're looking for return on investment and you're a Mets fan, you ain't getting it, because this team is way underperforming. The hitting isn't there. Francisco Lindor's not playing well. They jettisoned Pete Alonso because they thought he had reached his peak and was on the backside of his career. Nobody has stepped up to fill that void. The pitching's been horrible. They just got rid of David Peterson, sending him to the Cubs for the proverbial player to be named later and some cash considerations. So I don't know what happens there in the Mets, but I expect them to be big sellers. You can't have this high of a payroll and be like, have the third worst record in baseball at this point. You just can't. And I expect a couple other teams to be sellers as well, including the Detroit Tigers. I think the biggest sell is going to be Tariq Skubal and where he ends up. 2-time Cy Young winner. This was a Tiger team that looked to be on the verge of something special there in Detroit. But they kept growing the last couple of years, but it has all fallen apart in a hurry over there in Detroit. And the offense is doing nothing. I was looking down their lineup. They got a bunch of hitters hitting under 220. That just can't happen. And they're not getting any power. They're not getting any pitching. They went out and signed Framber Valdez this offseason. Everybody's wondering, where's Framber Valdez going to go? Why is he still there on the market? Well, the reason he's still there is because maybe he's past his prime. He's 4-6 with a 4.50 ERA right now.
Wow.
That's why he's still available.
Right.
Well, was still available towards the end of spring training.
Right, exactly. And it's amazing about Detroit. This is why when you get a shot and you've got a team that's hot, you want to try to strike, because you never know when things are going to fall apart the next season. And we've seen that so many times in sports. So many great stories this year about pitchers. Is this the year of the pitcher?
Absolutely. Starting pitching is as good as it's ever been in the major leagues right now. And you look down the list of the top pitchers, the top starters in the majors, you have at least 15 to 18 pitchers, all with sub-3 ERAs. Look, 10 years ago, that was unheard of. If you had a pitcher in the starting rotation with an ERA of sub-3, you were doing good. Now there's 15 to 20 of those guys floating around the major leagues. You've got guys, flirting with Gibson's record for ERA set back in 68. Mizrachi, is doing that right now in Milwaukee. You've got a number of other pitchers just having fabulous seasons. I really think that pitching's making a big comeback. Now, how long it can hold out, I don't know. We're going to have to see how that develops. Because, Larry, I think one of the other things you've got to look at right now on the pitching front is, do the Pirates have a Paul Skenes problem? Because I think they do. We joked here on this show. We spent a couple of different episodes last August, last July, as we approached the deadline, and some guests that we had on. And I would ask them, what do you think? Do the Pirates, do they actually even fathom thinking about trading Paul Skenes because he's having the fabulous year, second year in a row? And they said, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. Well, something's wrong with Paul Skenes because he hasn't won since May. He was 0-5 in June. His ERA is now up around 3.48, I believe was the last I checked. His ERA since June is well over 5. So something's amiss. And if he's hurt, what's hurt? Is it a shoulder? Is it an elbow? Is it just he's pitching from the wrong arm slot? He's lost something in his mechanics that needs to be straightened out. Whatever it is. But if you're the Pirates, look, that this guy probably isn't sticking around past year 5 or 6. You've got him under team control for those first few years. And then he's probably going to want to leave because he's that good. Now, if he's hurt and you want to try to trade him, you're not going to get as much. Because if you can trade him when he's healthy and at the top of his game, you can get a whole haul, which may help your rebuild. The Pirates have been in a rebuild mode for 30 years at this point. But I'm wondering what the issue is there, because to me, when a pitcher goes that south that fast, it's an injury. And I think he's hurt somewhere, and we just haven't heard about it yet. And I hope it's not an elbow or a shoulder.
Yeah, something that he can, something else. He can come back rather quickly if it's that. And boy, we've seen those way too many times. Hopefully that's not the case, to your point. Maybe it's a Livy Dunn issue. Maybe they've she's said, not that I want to break up. Let's just take a break, but you can't kiss other people. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just having fun with this. People don't get at us. We talked about the Mets a moment ago. The other team in New York, the Yankees, fallen out of first place. Of course, the Aaron Judge injury. Should they be worrying in the Bronx?
I think it might be time to just, maybe start playing with the rosary beads a little more. If you're a Yankee fan, maybe twirl them a little extra hard. We know Aaron Judge is not coming back anytime soon. Probably, I think the earliest that I've seen is that he could come back at the end of August. If he makes it back at all during the regular season because of this injury. Now, their offense has been going south for the last few weeks. They are getting above average production from, an older Paul Goldschmidt. They've been getting good production from Cody Bellinger, but each one of those guys in the recent history has shown that they can go stretches and be absolutely abysmal and useless. You're getting fabulous production right now from Ben Rice, and I think he'll keep it up all season. But you've got to wonder about an offense that is suddenly not producing, and the pitchers are having some issues. The starting pitching has been good. The middle part of the bullpen hasn't been so good. They're now 4 games back. They're 2-8 in their last 10. Tampa is 8-2 in their last 10. Look, nobody expected Tampa to be where they are at this point in a division with the Blue Jays and the Red Sox and the Yankees. And they're leading the division as of today by 4 games. So if you're the Yankees, it might be time to, start pressing that panic button just a little. You don't have to mash it just yet, but you may want to get that hand near getting ready to press it.
Yeah, reason to be, like you said, concerned, just because you don't want to look up here in a month and all of a sudden you're 8 games back and you've got this big hole to dig out of, and you're scrambling just for a wild card. Producer Tony, out in San Diego, what has gone wrong with the Padres?
Absolutely everything has gone wrong. The offense, has just gone to pieces, literally pieces. Fernando Tatis went the longest he's ever gone between homers in his career. He's having trouble getting back on track right now. It has not gone well in San Diego at all. They tried to put together this pitching staff with a bunch of teams' rejects. Well, that has not panned out at all. And, it's been really ugly down there in San Diego at this point. You take a look at some of their hitting stats, and Xander Bogaerts is right. If Gavin Sheets and Ty France were one player, they'd be going to the All-Star game. But their platoon at first base has been great. They've got 24 homers. They've got 68 RBIs. Put that together in one person, you're tremendous. But their experiment with Nick Castellanos has not gone well. Jake Cronenworth is hitting a $184 at this point of the season.
Oh, geez.
Their catching is horrendous. Freddie Furman is doing nothing. He's hitting a $152. It has just gone absolutely south in a hurry. And like I said, the pitching has not been able to keep up. They have a patchwork. You would consider it patchwork because these guys have all been elsewhere. Walker Buehler was with the Dodgers and the Red Sox. He's got 3 quality starts and 17 starts and an ERA approaching 5 at this point. Griffin Canning, who was with the Mets, looked to be getting things turned around last year, signed to go to San Diego. He's got 1 quality start in 9 starts and an ERA over 7. So that hasn't panned out. They tried to find these guys who had issues. Now the question becomes, what do you do with Mason Miller, who's having a fabulous season? He's got an 0.78 ERA. He's got 21 saves, a bajillion strikeouts. Do you keep him? Do you trade him? You just acquired him from the A's, but now if things are going that far south and you're not a playoff team, do you think about moving Mason Miller at the deadline? I wouldn't. I would keep him and be what I would build around. But you took a chance on a bunch of starting pitchers who were held together with, duct tape and spit and glue, and it hasn't worked out at all.
Right, exactly. I want to try to get one more team in here before we take a quick break. The Braves right now. Your concerns about the Braves, and should they be worried about their offense?
Well, I think they should, because Ronald Acuna hasn't been there. He's been hurt again. And the pattern for the Braves the last few years is when Acuna is playing, they're very, very good. They're among the best in baseball. When Acuna is not playing, well, the wheels start falling off. And Acuna is not playing right now. And they're not hitting as well. They've gotten a little bit of production from Matt Olson. Austin Riley has gone way south at the plate. He is not providing anything that they thought he would, and he's on a big contract. And again, that's another team with starting pitching. If you could take the guys on the injured list, one of the best rotations in baseball. Problem is, they're all on the injured list.
Right.
So if they can get healthy, they'll be fine. But some of them have been on the injured list for a while now, so you're not sure when they're going to be able to come back or if they're going to be able to come back this season. Right now they're a couple of games up on the Phils because they built that early lead behind the early hitting. But right now it's gone south. And like I said, not having Acuna is a big deal for the Braves. He really is the linchpin around that franchise.
Yeah, there's no question. And he's the straw that stirs the drink there in Atlanta. Change in managers, good start to the season, but they've kind of fallen off. Like you said, if you're healthy, it's one thing, but they're not healthy right now. All right, producer Tony, job well done. We'll give you a break, and we'll take a break as well. Coming up next, a legend decides to go for at least one more year. We'll talk about that coming up. And also WNBA, a little controversy right now in the dub. We'll talk about that coming up here next on the Sports IQ with Larry.
Do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call. Because the best prices on airline tickets are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at ridiculously low prices. They have access to great prices and discounts with over 500 different airlines, plus 300,000 hotels and rental car companies. Their prices are too low to publish online. The only way to learn more is make a free call. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next trip. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find the best prices for you. Call SmartFares today and get the best price on your next trip.
Listen, were you forced into getting a solar contract and now you just don't want it anymore? Maybe the solar company misled you. Or is your solar contract buried with hidden fees? Are you not saving the amount of money you thought you would on your energy costs? Don't worry. At the Solar Exit Hotline, we can help you cancel your solar contract, even if the panels are already installed. Our experienced legal team will review your contract and help you cancel it, possibly saving you thousands of dollars. You gotta call right now for complete details. So listen, if you're not happy with your solar contract for any reason, we are here to help you cancel it. Call the Solar Exit Hotline now for immediate options to help you exit your solar contract. This call is 100% free. Call 855-227-0286. That's 855-227-0286. Call us right now.
Welcome back as we continue here on this holiday weekend. The 10 starters for the 2026 WNBA All-Star Game announced on Thursday by the league after a combination of fan, media, and player voting. As expected, the group headlined by the reigning most valuable player, A'ja Wilson, star guards Caitlin Clark and Paige Beckers as well, the two most recent Rookie of the Year winners. Olivia Miles, who is the presumptive winner for the 2026 Rookie of the Year, let's face it, unless she's injured at some point, just going and just engrave that plaque right now to put on the trophy for Olivia Miles. We don't see anybody else winning that. That's how good she has been. Number 2 pick overall in the draft. She was also named a starter, the only rookie starter in the group, along with her teammates in Minnesota, Natasha Howard. These two have been instrumental in the Lynx surprise 15-4 start that has them in first place despite Nafisa Collier's continued absence. Indiana Fever getting 3 starters in. No surprise there. The Lynx and Dallas Wings with 2 each. The other starters for the game include Brianna Stewart of the Liberty, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell from the Fever, joining Caitlin Clark. Jessica Shepard from Dallas, joining her Wings teammate Beckers, and Gabby Williams of the Valkyries, Golden State Valkyries, the second-year team. Caitlin Clark named an all-star starter for the 3rd year in a row, but once again had to rely on fan and media voting. She finished second in the voting behind Paige Beckers. The league does not reveal the exact number of votes, just the order, and 3rd in media voting, but was only 11th in player voting. It's Caitlin Clark we're talking about. The 12-7 Atlanta Dream sitting in 4th place, the only team in the top 7 in the standings that did not have a starter. And that is surprising. Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray finishing 5th and 6th respectively among the guards. Angel Reese, the newcomer coming in from Chicago, 3rd-year player, has been an all-star the past couple of years, but she finished 7th among front court players. And Reese was pretty frustrated. She spoke out on behalf of her teammates on Thursday, calling it disrespectful that no one on the Atlanta Dream was selected as a starter for the All-Star game. And here's a quote from Reese. I expect to be disrespected. For those two, though, and talking about Howard and Gray here, I think they work so hard. They put a lot of work in, and the way that they've guarded every game and they adjust. The reason that why we're where we are is because of those two. For us not to have anyone was just a slap in the face, but they're not going to say anything. I am. End quote. You know what? I'm a fan of Angel Reese's. I don't always agree with everything that she does or says, but I think in this case, it is a travesty to think of how good they are. And boy, I can't parse one over the other. Alicia Gray has been an MVP candidate the past couple of years. Ryan Howard, the former number 1 overall pick, has been just a stellar part of that Atlanta Dream team that now is enjoying a more success. They had set a record last year for the most wins in franchise history in a single season. Look, I know last year doesn't matter. It's all about this year. But I think it also talks about, in terms of some of the players coming on, obviously Olivia Miles, the season that she's having. Paige Beckers, Caitlin is healthy again, of course. You have these other players that have stepped up. And with the voting, they finished just off that. So hopefully, again, they finished just off that. So hopefully they can come back and they can be still a part of the game, of course. A legend in every way that you look at it. Alex Ovechkin, the NHL's career leader in goals, deciding to return for the 2026-27 season. It will be his 22nd year with the Washington Capitals. The team announcing on Thursday, Ovechkin has signed a 1-year contract. The average annual value is $4.25 million. So, Ovi, the new deal carries a $1 million bonus, but a base salary, I should say, and a $3.25 million signing bonus. However, he'll earn $4.75 million a bonus if he plays at least 10 games. That would increase the total salary to $9 million. Alex Ovechkin, one of the all-time greats, without a doubt, a Hall of Famer. Is he a GOAT, the GOAT? At least he's one of the GOATs. But it's exciting not just for the Capitals, but for all of us who follow the game of hockey to have Ovi in uniform one more time. 22nd year there with the Caps. He'll be there in Chinatown, skating for Washington. All right, stay with us. We've got more fun coming up. Again, sports history, crazy things that happen, and wait until producer Tony tells you where he was for one of these moments. That is after this timeout right here on the Sports IQ. Okay, welcome back here to the show. So we were talking at the very top about getting a lot of sports history. Again, we do the daily moments of awe, and we really enjoy kind of going in and taking just a few seconds. It's never more than a minute, and talking about some kind of great, crazy thing that happened on that day, right? I mean, we talked about the other day, the baseball park that burned down. We've talked about not only Jackie Robinson, but the guy who created Jackie Robinson, if you will, Branch Rickey, I should say, setting a record for most stolen bases given up by a catcher back during his playing days. So in the research, we discovered there was a lot of stuff that happened in sports history in the first 4 days of July. Now, in a moment here, we get to our top 5 crazy moments or special moments in sports on July 4th. We thought we'd take a few moments to go over, July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And producer Tony, in talking about this list, there's about 15, maybe 18 things here that are really stand out. It's just really wild. You were saying one of these, you were right there and witnessed it live firsthand.
Yeah, one of the things that you have on July 1st was the Tyson Holyfield. Actually, it was the Tyson Holyfield when he got suspended and the purse withheld. That happened on July 1st. The fight actually took place about a week before that, at the end of June. But yeah, I was with CNN SI at the time, and you were with us as well. And I got chosen to go out there with the rest of the crew and provide coverage of the fight. And so that night we had 2 passes. Nick Charles, the late Nick Charles, great friend, both yours and mine, miss Nick every day. And Nick was our boxing expert, and he was there, and he had 1 pass, and he was going to keep it for the whole match. The other one, we were rotating on a couple round basis. Everybody could go in and see a couple rounds of the fight while we were waiting to do all the post-game coverage. Well, I go in, take the seat that we have in the auxiliary press area, which is basically just up in the stands with everybody else. And I'm watching, and I see at the end, towards the end of one round, Evander Holyfield grab his ear after a clinch with Tyson. He grabs his head, and I'm like, geez, what happened there? Because it didn't look, there were no punches thrown. I'm like, not sure what's going on. So the round ends. They come back for the next round with inside 30 seconds. Holyfield grabs his head again, ducks down, and the referee steps in and stops the fight. And you realize, okay, something major happened. Somebody did something way illegal. Where I was, I couldn't exactly see what it was, but I had an idea. And I realized it was time to go. So I got up, dead sprint for a guy in his late 30s, getting back, because we were about where the arena was about 3/4 of a mile away from where the trucks were, the satellite truck compound that held us, ESPN, anybody else that was, covering the fight at that time. And everything was done via satellite truck at that time. We go running back out there and we start making plans for how are we going to cover all the rest of this. So we're getting there. We're trying to figure things out. Then all the rumors start flying. What happened? Why did it happen? Where did it happen? Then we get another rumor. There's been shots fired inside the casino. Our cameraman at the time, friend of both yours and mine, we worked with him a lot. John McAfee, recently retired from CNN. John, great career. Hope you're enjoying that retirement, buddy. He picks up his camera. I pick up a microphone. Nick is still waiting for the press conference. He doesn't want to leave. We go racing into the casino again to see what was going on, with this shooting. We get about halfway there and we kind of look at each other and go, if there is gunfire happening, the two of us have nothing other than a camera and a microphone to defend ourselves with. What are we doing? So, but we do our job anyway. We go in and find out nothing's going on. Somebody had dropped over some glass that had, sounded like gunfire. It became a big lot of nothing. And John goes one way and I go another. And I get to an area and I'm trying to get back into the casino, which is now closed. And I'm told I can't go back. And I'm like, I'm with the press and I'm showing my badge. And I got a cop out there telling me he's going to arrest me if I try to get back in the casino one more time. So now I got to make like a 3-block walk around to get back. And in a day before cell phones were real popular, I had mine and I'm like, calling Tony Florkowski, who was our other producer at that point, like, it's going to take me a while. I'll be there. Hang on. I ain't as fast as I used to be. So yeah, it was a crazy night that ended with us getting back to our hotel in the wee hours of the morning. And of course, we figured the fight was that night. We all had flights back home the next morning. Right. So we're all getting dressed on no sleep, going back to the airport. We went and had a drink. That one I won't tell on air because it's not rated for minors. But yeah, we went back and it was a long flight home. Very tired people going back home, except for Nick and John and Tony had to stay because we had to find out what was going to happen to Tyson at that point.
Right. And like you said, and we should, like, as you pointed out, today was the day, July 1st, 1997, that Tyson was suspended for the ear bite. Like you said, it happened a few days earlier. And by the way, his $20 million purse also withheld. I was watching in the CNN Sports, CNN SI studios back in Atlanta. And again, just one of the most bizarre moments. And so great to hear your story talking about that as we were discussing this. Something else too, back in the day, two crazy moments happened with the same teams 1 year apart. In 1916, Honus Wagner of the Pirates becoming the oldest player at age 42 to hit an inside the park home run. A year later, Pirates and Reds, the same teams, Fred Toney of Cincinnati throwing 2 complete games in a doubleheader, allowing 3 hits in each game, fewest hits allowed by a pitcher, and winning 2 Major League Baseball games in the same day. Crazy these two teams got together a year, given not many teams back then, not as many teams, but that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and to think pitchers used to pitch sometimes both ends of a doubleheader. Now, the last pitcher that I know that did it was Wilbur Wood of the Chicago White Sox, who recently passed away. But Wilbur Wood was one of the pitchers who could still do that in the 70s, had that kind of rubber arm, threw a knuckleball, and would pitch both ends of a doubleheader sometimes for the White Sox.
Right. It's crazy to think they would even now today. There's no way in the world, as we just talked about. Are you kidding me? You're kidding. If you get 6 innings in one doubleheader, let alone start 2, that's crazy. The first NBA college draft happened on this day, 1947. Back then, they were called the Basketball Association of America before they became the NBA. That happened in 1947. A year later, Roy Campanella debuting, 3 hits for the Dodgers legendary catcher They're in Brooklyn. By the way, it's Dodgers losing 6-4, even though Campanella had the big debut. 1982, Cal Ripken, as we know, the all-time Iron Man, would eventually break Lou Gehrig's streak for consecutive games played. Ended up with 2,216 games. Game 1 of that streak was on July 1st, 1982.
Yeah, I was still in college at that point. I was a big Oriole fan. Where I grew up in upstate New York, we were the AAA home for the Orioles. So I had gotten to see Cal play in the minor leagues when I was on break from college a couple years in a row there before he made the big jump to going to the major leagues and becoming a star with the Orioles. And I also got to cover the end of that streak at CNNSI the night he didn't play. I got to cover it the day he broke the record. And we did all kinds of things the next morning. And then when he sat out a game, we did more coverage of that. And just a great guy. And I was lucky enough twice in later career that I'm doing now to get to work with Cal on media events. And just the nicest man you ever want to meet. Just a really gentle, warm human being.
You know what? I had the same experience having interacted with him a couple of times. The last was when I was in Washington, maybe 10, 11 years ago, interviewed him as part of a segment. And again, the most gracious guy and to be a superstar. And man, you'd think he was just your next door neighbor. I mean, he'd ask about your family. He would reminisce about when we first met back at CNN. I emceed the first ever Cal Ripken World Series. I served as master of ceremonies for the opening ceremony for all these players all over the world. And yeah, just a class act. I mean, it's one of the true great guys in sports. And glad you had the same experience that I did as well. All those things happened on July 1st. I want to get to a couple things on July 2nd. We talked about pitchers. 1933, the Giants' Carl Hubble throws 18 innings of shutout baseball without a walk, as the Giants beat the Cardinals 1-0. 18 innings and no walks.
Yeah, I mean, nobody goes those kind of innings anymore. You've got another one down here, Larry, from 63, the classic duel where Juan Marichal outpitches Warren Spahn 1-0 after Willie Mays hits the walk-off tater in the bottom of the 16th. There's a great book about that. If you just Google that and go look at it, I've read it. It's an excellent account. It's an excellent account of both of those pitchers leading up to that time and what they have done. And that's just a great read.
I can't wait to now I want to go find that and want to go read that. I looked up some details on that, some more, because I was really curious just what happened. These are two of the legendary pitchers, right? Obviously, Spahn at the time was 42 years old at the end of his career, 15 and a third innings pitched. He threw 201 pitches in one game, 9 hits, and as you mentioned, the walk-off home run to Willie Mays in the bottom of the 16th. Juan Marichal, meanwhile, he was the young kid, only 25 years old, complete game for him, 16 innings. He threw 227 pitches, 10 strikeouts, 8 hits allowed, and then, of course, so yeah, between the two, combined 428 pitches. And so you've got these two legends, and then you've got the legendary Willie Mays figuring into this as well. I mean, maybe the best pitchers duel in baseball history. I mean, at least it's in the conversation.
Oh, absolutely. It would have to be in the conversation. It was just reading the book. And if you close your eyes and kind of take yourself back to that time and that place, and it being the early 60s and what was happening in the country and everything that was going on, it's a great read. If you want to pick it up, I wish I could remember the title of it off the top of my head, but I can't. But if you just Google Marichal Spahn game book, you'll get it. It's a wonderful, wonderful read.
We'll have to dig through and find that. Yeah, it was in 1963, just a few months before the assassination of JFK. A few years earlier, in 1941 on this day, July 2nd, Joe DiMaggio hits a 3-run home run. Why was that a big deal? Because it broke Wee Willie Keeler's and then Major League record hit streak at 44 games. 45th game in a row that Joltin' Joe got a hit. Of course, he would go on to extend that to 56, which still stands today.
Absolutely. And we've seen some runs at it. Pete Rose once made a run at it. Nobody's been able to break it. It's one of those records in sports that you wonder, especially the way the game is played now, where it's more power and they don't care if you strike out and your average isn't as important if anybody's going to break that record.
I don't think so. I don't think it's going to. I mean, it's like you said, Rose got to 44, I believe. He tied Keeler, if my memory is correct. But didn't break it. I don't see it being broken. Crazy there. In 2008, a little more recent, the Sonics moved to Oklahoma City. And this was a big controversy because the new owner, Clay Bennett, bought the team, moving it to Oklahoma City, which didn't have a major pro sports franchise until they made this move in the NBA. But Bennett at the time, there was a big issue, of course, with the lease. The Supersonics still had 2 more years of their lease at the arena there in Seattle. And so Bennett paid at the time was just a crazy amount, $45 million to get out of the last 2 years of the lease. Well, fast forward now, Bennett still owns the Thunder. The Sonics had won one title there back in the late 70s. Of course, the Thunder winning last year. They've got not only the new arena then, but they're building a new arena now to replace that arena. And the franchise now, as we mentioned a few moments ago, in terms of a few days ago, in terms of franchise value, that franchise now is worth billions. So the $45 million he paid, he got back in spades.
Absolutely. I mean, great franchise. They do the things the right way down there in Oklahoma City, and they're going to be a really good team for a long time to come.
Yeah, July 2nd. Very quickly, July 3rd, get this in very quickly. In 1966, the expansion Atlanta Braves, Tony Cloninger becoming the first National League player and the only pitcher with 2 grand slams in a game. He hit one in the first, another one in the fourth, part of a 17-3 win over the Giants at Candlestick. So there we go. All right, Tony, we made it through. Okay, we'll stop there. We want to save some time for our final segment here. Top 5 sports moments in July 4th history. That's next.
Are you paying too much for term life insurance? There's a tremendous price war among the major term life companies. Rates have dropped dramatically in the past 2 years. For example, a man age 45 non-tobacco user, $1 million of coverage is only $75 per month, level for the next 10 years. Or a man age 50 non-tobacco user can buy $500,000 of coverage for a monthly premium of only $110, guaranteed not to change for the next 20 years. That's right, level rates for 20 years. And if you're a smoker, we have great rates for you as well. At the Term Lifeline, we specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. So if you're looking for new or replacement term life insurance, call right now for a free quote.
Rates and availability may vary by state. Sample rate quotes are based on preferred non-tobacco underwriting exam required to qualify.
Call 855-826-7932. 855-826-7932. That's 855-826-7932.
Okay, and we're back. So those are some crazy moments that over the years on July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And boy, there's a lot of them. Okay, now we want to get to the top 5 moments in sports history that happened on July 4th. And producer Tony, we're going to go back to number 5. Back in 1980, on July 4th, Nolan Ryan, the fireballer, we talked about pitchers earlier, striking out Cesar Geronimo to become the 4th pitcher ever with 3,000 strikeouts. Happened on July 4th.
Love it. I mean, Ryan was one of the best. I was lucky enough in the year after that, it was in 1983 in the springtime, I got to see him break Walter Johnson's all-time strikeout record. In fact, I got to report on it as part of my internship as I was as a senior in college. The main anchor, we went up, we covered the game. He said, "Hey, I'm going to take a bite for the early show, and I'm going to let you do a piece for the later show." So that was pretty cool. Got to be in the press conference after everything was over, long before press conferences were televised all over the world. It was just in a small place at Olympic Stadium up in Montreal, and it was great.
Oh, how cool is that? That is awesome. I was such a big fan of Nolan Ryan's and J.R. Richards. I grew up in downstate Illinois, diehard Cub fan, right? I mean, I watched, every game. I'd come home from school and watch the end of the game at Wrigley, Jack Brickhouse on the call. But for a couple of years, I actually switched over and rooted for the Astros because of Nolan Ryan and because of J.R. Richards. So that happened on this day. By the way, also on this day, 1984, we should just say, didn't make our top 5, but 4 years later, Phil Niekro joined the 3,000 strikeout club, whiffing Larry Parrish of the Texas Rangers. Again, that also happened on July 4th. Okay, number 4, just a couple years ago, 2022, Major League Baseball's first 8-5 triple play. Tony, I know you're a big baseball fan. You recall this. The Twins, Byron Buxton makes a catch in center field, throws to Gio Urshela, tags out a runner between second and third, and then runs over and just taps on second base for the third out. This all against the White Sox in Chicago. Bizarre play.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much fun to see those odd plays when you get a chance. And, I didn't get to see that one. I saw that one on the highlights later on, but always a neat play when you see guys pulling off that kind of thing on a triple play. And it makes you go, ooh, these guys are special. They can do some things that normal of us cannot even fathom doing.
Yeah, exactly. We talked earlier about crazy pitchers in the last segment. Number 3 on our list. We won't spend a lot of time on this because neither one of us was there. 1905, Rube Waddell of the Philadelphia A's and a guy you've heard of, Cy Young of the Boston Red Sox, both threw a 20-inning classic. Again, back then, pitching, the art and the mechanics, the math of pitching wasn't what it is today. Both went 20 innings. It was pretty crazy. Okay, we go to number 2 right now. Boxing at one point in time was huge, right? And so July 4th, as it turns out, was always a big day for a boxing match, and it was called the Fight of the Century on the 4th of July in 1910. Jack Johnson with the TKO of James J. Jeffries in the 15th round in Reno, Nevada to retain the heavyweight title. Now, Tony, we weren't there either, but in 1910. But again, Jack Johnson, somebody again that just goes through the annals of history, is one of the all-time great athletes, regardless of sport.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, Jack had a lot of issues with race in America at that time and dealing with that. So he had a lot of other things to deal with other than just the fights that are going on. But, you listed a couple of other ones in this one. And the neat thing to me about it is, Larry, is some of these sporting events took places in places you wouldn't expect. Dempsey beating Gibbons in Shelby, Montana, Dempsey beating Jess Willard in Toledo, Ohio. I think that's one of the things you're missing in sports is that everything has to be done in New York or LA or some huge venue. And this was a time in America when America was smaller, where people in these other towns could see things and be a part of things. And you're missing some of that in today's America.
I could not agree more. And even the Fight of the Century in Reno, Nevada. I mean, today is not a sports mecca. But it happened then. And again, these were all in front of huge crowds. It wasn't like this was just a small, like you said, Shelby, Montana. I didn't know Shelby, Montana, never heard of it before. They're doing this research. But yeah, July, and these were all on July 4th, as you mentioned, the Johnson beating Flynn in Vegas in 1912, Vincent Dempsey, Willard 1919 in Toledo, 1923, Dempsey Gibbons in Montana, all these on the 4th of July. So again, like you said, not just a heavyweight title fight, but a heavyweight title fight on a day that was known at that point in time, was known for drawing large crowds in large stadiums. And so there's no question about that. Number 1 on the 4th of July, probably not a surprise, the Lou Gehrig Day, the first Major League Baseball player to have his number retired in 1939. He stands up and gives that luckiest man alive speech.
Yeah, that was one of the first exhibits I saw. I was about 10 years old, went to the Baseball Hall of Fame. My parents took me, I think I was like 9, actually. It was like 1968 or 69. And we went to the Hall of Fame and saw that exhibit, and you got to press the button and hear part of the speech. I mean, Gehrig and Ruth, when you were a baseball fan in the 60s, these were the giants of the game, and they were the history of the game that you knew, and Jackie Robinson, and then the guys still playing at the time, Mays, Mantle, Aaron, all of those, the Clementes of the era were just bigger than life figures. Yeah.
And it's you think about Lou Gehrig. We've talked before. He's been our moment of awe. We've talked about his career before, and sadly, it passes away just 2 years later with the ALS, which also we now know as the Lou Gehrig disease. But 1939, July 4th is when that happened. That's our show for today. Make this a fantastic holiday weekend. Be safe. Enjoy the laughter and love with family and friends. It's a Sports IQ with Larry Smith. We'll talk to you on Monday. See you then.
Thanks for listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith, Monday through Friday. Continue the conversation at Sports IQ LS. We'll see you next time.